Welcome back. Let's start with a copy of the initial screen. Hold Alt and drag a copy underneath it. This is what we're going to use to show the login and register fields. Basically, we're going to show what's going to happen when you click on this button at the bottom of the screen. Now let's delete a few things. Or skip this step and then create an account. Deselect and have a look on the right side to see all the styles so far. So this is what you should have on your end as well. Though the text styles are not set in stone. You could have more, you could have less. Okay, now drag the field and button a bit lower down to make a bit of room. Login and register can be shown by using tabs. So grab the line tool, hotkey L, and drag one out. We're looking for 656 in terms of width. Use the top right side for that, so that's 656. Pure white with a thickness of 2. Remember to hold shift when dragging out the line if you want it to be perfectly straight. Now, above this line, let's write register. We do have several styles, but let's do this part manually. This should be shown in Nunito, bold, and 30. This is something that's come across in our project quite often. Okay, click on these three dots to get loads more options. Now, I want all my letters to be uppercase, and that's this option here. The reason behind this choice is quite simple, uppercase, and that's because of hierarchy. Now, this helps the user navigate to the screen. More on that a bit later on. Now, this has to be placed 20 pixels from the line, give or take. Of course, we're gonna need another tab that's gonna be called Login, so please write that in. As before, make a copy and replace things. Okay, to keep things intuitive, we're gonna drop the weight from bold to regular. Now, we could potentially use a very light gray, the likes of DDD, to show that this is not the active tab, but actually I have a better solution. So grab the existing line from this screen and then duplicate it, Ctrl D. Then we're gonna make it 4 pixels thick, which is the standard according to Google Material Design. Now for the color, I'm gonna use the following. That's FD-DD07, which is a shade of yellow, actually gold, which I do like. Now this stands out, but in the right amount. It's not neon, but it's perfectly fine. Okay, finally, we can resize it by using some math in the W field. Just add /2 at the end of it and then hit enter. And that's gonna give us 328 pixels. That's 328. And with this element, we can now align the titles. Remember how that's done? Select register with the yellow bar and align horizontally. This one here. Then move login somewhere in the middle of the remaining white bar. Something like this. You might want to zoom in for this next bit. Okay, grab the active bar with the white one, so 2 things selected, and then right align them. Okay, now we can select login along with the yellow bar. So basically, we're constantly grabbing 2 items at a time and we're aligning them. Rinse and repeat. Okay, center these guys as well. And finally, select both bars and move it back into place. Move the gold one to the left in its original place. And basically, that's the tab system done. We need quite a lot of room underneath for our fields, so place this about 60 to 70 pixels from the logo. We're gonna have email, password, phone number, city, and so on, so we're gonna need as much space as we can get. And this is where we're gonna need components. Any repetitive content, such as a field, should be made into a component because of a simple reason. Now imagine we're gonna have 50 or 100 fields inside this project. And then we decide, hey, you know what? We might need another look. Maybe a different corner radius, a different styling. What then? 100 fields, imagine that. Now, as I said, we could potentially update them manually, screen by screen, but using a component is much smarter. Now, in general, you will find components in the top left side when you click on Assets. Now, we don't have any right now, but we'll get to it in a minute. Still here, we can see our page number, and that's number 1. Now, in general, components are kept in a different page. And why is that? Because it's best to see all of your assets separately. But because I want you to follow this as easy as possible, What we're gonna do is we're gonna do this. Grab the frame tool, hotkey F, and drag one out right here on the left side. No specific size in mind, just a random one. Then change its fill from pure white to maybe a very light gray. That's because the fields will very likely be white, and we're gonna have white on white, so we do need decent contrast, hence the light gray background. Now you can rename this frame into res or resources frame, whatever you want, just so it stands out a bit and we can identify it. Finally, we can add our first item here, the logo. Select both layers and move them inside this new frame, the resources frame. Then look at the top of Figma in the middle of this bar. This is the icon we're looking for, create component. And you can tell it's a component by looking in the layers panel. This is the symbol for the master component. A master component simply means the original one. And because we want to keep the original one nice and safe, we've moved it here in the resources frame. Of course, we're gonna need the logo in these screens. So drag out the copy with Alt to drag, like so. Now this clone, this copy is called an instance. And again, you can think of it as a copy of the original component. Notice this icon in the layers panel. This is a bit different. This one is empty. See here? But if we click on the original component, the master component, that's filled. This is a different icon. Now, in case this resources frame is too far away, you can always do this. Switch to the Assets tab. From here, you're going to have local components, and then underneath, the name of the frame. That's resources in my case. Now, from here, you can simply drag out a copy. No other hotkey, just click and drag. Always remember to center the logo. And then we can use the Y field to place it 80 pixels from the top of the screen. So that's 80. And basically now we're using components. Now you may ask, why Chris? Why should we do it? Because we may change our mind and make the logo, for example, yellow, right? Oh, actually, I think we didn't add that color to the colored styles. So let's handle that. It's not a big deal. Select the Active tab. Use these 4 dots to open up the colored styles menu. And then add that entry. Call it highlight or whatever you want, gold, yellow, whatever, and then we can go back to our component. So as I said, it's very useful because we can change lots and lots of instances, aka copies, by playing with the original master component. Just like that, change its color and everything updates. But obviously we need it white, so let's undo with Ctrl-Z. Now you could of course play with the text underneath. Maybe change the weight, the alignment, the distance, even the typeface itself. So this is the power of components. We're going to use them quite a lot, so don't worry if you don't 100% get it. For now, let's continue.